Jeff from Maryland. What's up, Jeff?
Hi, Clay. Hi, Clay and Reecie. Can you hear me okay?
I
Yep, we
can.
can
What's
hear
up?
him.
Great. My chat will be less than 60 seconds to both of you, and 6 seconds to Reecie. And I'd first like to say Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Scalia and President Reagan and Tip O'Neill got along great, even though they were totally opposite sides. They never made it personal. And that's the way I hope that we can be. This is, um, yes, there's been outrageous discrimination, oppression, hatred, and persecution against the black people for 400 years. I, as a Jew, can appreciate the pain that black people have sustained for that amount of time. I've lost great grandparents in the war in Germany. Um, However, the Jews
You're already at 60 seconds, Mister Jeff. So give me your land the plane, brother.
they've been the Jews have been persecuted since 750 B.C.
Absolutely, without a doubt. Go ahead. I got you.
The Greeks, the Jews are less than 1% of the population in America and less than a half a percent in the world. And yet they, as a
Hmm.
whole, have achieved 25% of the Nobel Peace Prizes of all times. More importantly, in the USA, they've achieved very much, and I'm not talking about financial gain, although the median income is at the top of the.
What's the connection here? Because I really hope you aren't going down the Jim Crow lane of comparing the Jewish experience to the black experience. I
Or the
really hope you're not
pull
doing that.
yourself up by your bootstraps. I know
Yeah,
we also
I
not
hope you're
doing
not
it.
doing that because I would never do that to Jewish people. I'm not Jewish. I don't have a Jewish background. So I hope that's not what you're doing right now. That's the last thing that we really need. So I just, yeah, land the plane for us.
Okay. I know what the answer is, and I knew you were going to say this, and it's. I feel that there's an
You
obvious.
know what? You know what? Jeff, you've called in before. And what you have done, whether when you called in the last time I let you on the show 4 or 5 months ago, you talked about how you brought your kids to a black neighborhood to see how the blacks live, right? You try and give these personal experiences to somehow thinking that we're going to co-sign with you. You're going to find comfort here, as Reese said, as Reese has said. And that's just not going to happen, Jeff, right? And one thing that I really try not to do, I try not to tell other communities what their experience is, right? I try to not do that because I can't relate, right? So maybe you just give me your point without trying to attach a story to it because it's not going to help your argument because you are somebody where you are supporting somebody who I believe is not a kind person or does not care about democracy and who roots himself in bigotry and you've decided to support that person no matter what. So just stand in it. Just stand in it. But the story that you give is not going to make it any less ludicrous. So just, as Pat Benatar said, hit me with your best shot. Go ahead. You like that Pat
Okay.
Benatar reference?
The main point is you think I took them to a black area. No, sir. No, sir. The reason I
You
took
talked
them.
about the area of DC you took them to. You talked about the area of DC that you took them to see how they live. How could they live this way? Jeff, what's your point? I'm not in the mood today, brother. What's your point?
My point is, they didn't know it was a black area, sir. I took them at 5:30 in the morning. They didn't know if it was
What
white.
is your point, Jeff? What is your point?
What did you call in for? Is what he's trying to say. So you started off about your, I guess, sympathy and empathy for black people, and then what Jewish people have endured. But what if you weren't interrupted? Let's just say, even though it's Clay's show, he don't interrupt because it's his show. What what was you trying to get at ultimately? Like, what was the end point that you were trying to make? Because you said you had a question for me as well. So what were you trying to get to?
Well, let me take care of your question first because that's the easiest. You said it wasn't a landslide. They won the Electoral College, the popular vote, Senate, the House, the Supreme Court, and 7 swing states. That's a landslide. That's number one.
If that's how you want to, if that's how you want to characterize 1.5% of a popular vote victory, I acknowledge that. I actually, if you listen, I literally said that when you look at the Electoral College, it looks like more of a landslide. But I also, mentioning those 7 states, mentioned how close it was in those states. And so that's not a landslide. It was a victory. I would say it's a decisive victory, but a decisive victory and a landslide are 2 separate things, particularly when you consider the fact that 90-something million people stayed home. So I've cleared that up. Now, what was your other point that you had for Clay?
The other point was, I think, I'm talking from the Jewish point of view, 72% of, in 2023, the statistics were, there was 72% that had double parents. 72% of the country had both husband and wife managing the kids. In that same year, the black population of single women was 8.9%.
I've talked about this 1,000 times. This is a ridiculous, silly talking point. There's been studies on this, that black fathers are just as, if not more, involved in their children's lives. You also cannot marry yourself out of poverty. So versus you gave Reecie a question. Just give me a question, Jeff, then we got to move on.
I said my point.
He doesn't have a question. His point is that Jewish people are superior because despite all of the persecution that they've endured, they've managed to have accumulate great wealth, and they've managed to have 2-parent homes as opposed to us savage, lowly blacks who have not, I guess, in his view, had to endure the same degree of persecution as though this is the oppression Olympics. That's disgusting. There's no need to compare. And the plight of Jewish people is the plight of Jewish people. Okay.
That's right.
None of that, what you acknowledged about Jewish people, has anything to do with centuries of chattel slavery, violent, brutal enslavement of human beings, trafficking, the millions of our ancestors that were lost at sea, the barbaric treatment that our ancestors lived through, persevered, and still built a whole ass fucking country out of with their bare hands and their intellect and their technology and their hard work. So I don't want to hear shit about bootstraps motherfucking mentality that we need to have when our bootstraps built this bitch. That's one. Okay. We've seen Trump come in and undo 60 years of so-called affirmative action. And that was the first time that we even got so-called affirmative action outside of a short period that Clay has talked about for an extensive amount of times since the Reconstruction. So our time frame of any kind of even attempts at so-called equity and repair of slavery and Jim Crow has been 60 years. And every step of those 60 years, we have been fought tooth and nail against any progress. And now we have a white nationalist administration that is trying to not just take us back to Jim Crow, but completely strip us of our citizenship and our livelihoods and everything that we have worked so damn hard to get to. Nobody made this shit easy on us. So I don't give a fuck about what anybody else has been through. If you want to try to compare that to us, if you want to just talk about your plight, cool, boom, that's what's up. But when it comes to compare, there is no other comparison to what we've endured and are still enduring. And guess what? The way that the propaganda that has convinced people that it is some sort of inferiority in Black people that have led to this plight that people have bought into, guess what? That propaganda is about to bite all of y'all in the whole fucking ass, because that hatred and that false belief has given green light and license to the dictator in the fucking Oval Office right now to strip everybody, every race, creed, religion, and gender of anything they fucking want to strip them of. So congratulations on that. That's what you need to be worried about, not the statistics of Black single moms or whatever the fuck. That ain't got shit to do with you right now. What it has to do with you right now is what Donald Trump is doing. Stay focused. How about that? Worry about your own shit. I don't even know how Black single moms got in it. Why are they even in it? Matter of fact, the conversation that we were just having was talking about how race is actually a small fraction of what their agenda is. And here you come in talking about basically how Jewish people are superior to Black people. That's fucking crazy. That's crazy. And it's off topic on top of that. You a stupid, goofy ass clown.
Clay Kane Show, head into a break. Be right back.
You're listening to The Clay Kane Show.